Hello and welcome back to finally another video about Elden Ring on this channel. It's been far too long, but now that the DLC is, I think, 1 month away, I think it's time for more Elden Ring content to get hyped again, right? And today I want to present to you my DLC wishlist of features and certain other things. A list of certain things that I don't think will make it into the DLC or in this game in general, but I mean, let me dream, right? Maybe they can implement them in their next Souls-like game. But whatever. Let's start with the wish list. First thing that I've written down is a new, or at least an improved, magic system. And the current system that we have right now is very old. It's still the same system from like Demon's Souls, where you choose the spell that you want to cast, have your casting tool in one of your both hands, and then you press one button to cast a spell. And woohoo, we can cast spells now by holding them, and some spells are getting stronger, like we hold down the button, or we can delay them, but yeah, it's a very old system, and why not just make it so that we can, like, with normal weapons, like with a sword, we have a moveset, right? We can use R1, R2, two-handed R1, two-handed R2. So we have at least 4 buttons. Of course, we have a block button and a like Ash of War button as well, but let's focus first on R1, R2 and two-handed R1, R2. Why not make it so that we can allocate spells to these buttons specifically, and with the D-pad, by pressing up on the D-pad, we're just cycling through different sets. I'm definitely going to make another video about the magic system in Elden Ring right now. Not right now, but about the, at that time, current implementation of the magic system, if they're, whatever, where I'm going about my thoughts and this improvement, or in my head improvement, of the current magic system in depth, but why not make it so that we can use more buttons for even more spells, right? Or like there's another version that I can think of where you where they create extensive movesets for specific spell schools, where it's like you're not having like 4, 5, 6 different types of projectile attacks that vary in size and FP cost and also in damage. Why not just, instead of having like 30 different but also very similar like regular glintstone magic spells, why not just make a moveset out of this, where your R1 is your small pew-pew attack, like projectile attack, I'm calling them pew-pews, where your R2 is a heavy one, and two-handed you have a different moveset. Or with the carrion moveset, I can imagine that your R1 is your carrion slicer, and your R2 is like the great sword thingy, and then maybe two-handed you can unleash your ranged attacks, like when you two-hand the weapon. Or maybe you have to press the Ash of War button with your cast tool, or you hold block to switch to the new. Like, imagine you had to block with your staff to something like this, right? Where you have multiple different spells on your R1, R2, or light attack, heavy attack, two-handed light attack, two-handed heavy attack, something like this. That would improve the magic system immense, in my opinion. Then of course, and this is likely that they put this into the game, is more spells for the already existing magic schools. For example, Death Magic and Death Blight Magic, like the Fear, Death Magic, whatever, and what's it called, like the Blood Magic. They only have a few spells. Let's give us, why not give us a bit more of these spells, right? Because they're interesting, but the spells that we have are quite limited in their use. But yeah, extending the existing magic schools, and they're probably also adding a few magic schools here and there. Maybe. Maybe not. Who knows? Then, now that I've talked about like death magic, I would like to see status moves like Death Blight and Frenzy, for example. I would like to see them work on regular enemies. Like not only player character type enemies, but like a dog or like your random ass soldier dude. Right, on every single enemy well, not every single enemy, but on the majority of enemies they should work in any, like in some kind of form. Like Frenzy, fairly simple. Frenzy should do what it does right now, right? But Death Blight. Imagine Death Blight could work on bosses. That would be kinda lame, right? So for bosses with Death Blight, instead of instantly killing them, they could make it so that you can Death Blight a boss only once, per fight of course. Like if you die to the boss or nope out of the boss fight and you come, of course you can do it again, but you can apply Death Blight to a boss once and then they lose like 20, 25, 30% of their total HP. Like a small chunk, right, as a reward. Maybe a cool animation as well, that would be nice, where they are getting impaled and then instead of dying to the impalement of the death root, they're withstanding the attack and like shrugging it off, like breaking the root from underneath them. But usually the root comes through the ground, and they're impaling the enemy, but like they're still getting impaled, but they rip the root out of the ground and out of themselves, like ripping it out and throwing it away. Maybe something like this. Cool new animation with that. Would be amazing. Imagine Mesmer doing that. Imagine you can Death Blight Mesmer and because he's so powerful, he's getting impaled, he's still taking damage from it. Or maybe it's different per boss, like some bosses take more damage, some are immune, some take less damage from it, right? Imagine Mesmer's getting like slightly impaled by it, but then he grabs the root from underneath him, like rips it out and throws it away to the side. Like nothing happened. Wouldn't that be nice? Similar thing with Frenzy. I would like to see more enemies being affected by like some kind, when you apply Frenzy to them, your character, when your Frenzy meter becomes full, you're doing this, like your eyes are burning and you're grabbing your head and screaming effect, right? Let them make something similar to that. Maybe not as, again, same example with Mesmer, because he's so powerful, you can still be affected by it. Maybe it takes a while, right? But his eyes start burning, he grips his head, but then he's quickly on his feet again. And of course, maybe you can do it multiple times, but like they're getting more resistant. Like I mean, this mechanic already exists with Bleed and Poison, where they're becoming more resistant the more you apply the status effect. Like you can make it more extreme for Frenzy, for example, so that you're not just constantly stunning them, right? Maybe they also introduce a new status move into the game, would be nice too. Can I think of something? Like we already have Frost. No, off the top of my head I can't think of it, but maybe they can come up with a cool new status move. Would be nice too. So Then to the spell thingy and move thingy, I also have written down FP regeneration. I would like to see some FP regeneration, because currently the only way you can restore your FP, you can count it on your fingers, right? You can rest at a site of grace, sure. You can drink your zippies, right? Or your, like the bigger zippy, what is it called? Like your I don't know, like the flask, physic flask, whatever. Maybe you have some FP regeneration in there, who cares? Like you have the moonlight shards currently, and some talismans that are not really doing all that much. You basically, just by playing mage, you can't just go infinite. You always have to use some resources in order to restore your FP, which is unfortunate, I feel like. Either they implement some kind of key item that when you have it in your inventory, it gives you passive FP regeneration, maybe strong FP regeneration while you're out of combat, and little to none FP regeneration while you're in combat. Maybe they can give us, similar to Dragon's Dogma. In Dragon's Dogma you don't have FP, but you're still using stamina to cast spells with your mage. But what you can do in Dragon's Dogma with a specific, I don't know which of the two spellcaster classes you can use it with, but one of them has the ability to hold down their, no, it's the Archmage, right? The stronger, the mage with the stronger spells. You can think. It doesn't matter. You can use one of your buttons to rapidly regenerate stamina in that game while being fairly immobile. You can walk very slowly, but that's it. So you have still a downtime. Granted, in Dragon's Dogma, movement is very important because you don't, most classes don't have a dodge roll. Like there's one class that can dash around, but that's it. You usually have to evade attacks by running away or outmaneuvering them with running or walking, right, and jumping. Can you jump in that? I don't know. But yeah, maybe give us an Ash of War that we can channel and restore FP while standing still or while moving at a very, very slow pace, right? And then it's fine. We have FP regeneration. Would make the game so much better, for me at least. Okay, next point that I've written down is quests. Currently in the game we have a few quests that are open-ended. For example, Patches and Tamith's quest line. And we also have a lot of quest lines that have a lot of cut content in them. For example, Frenzied Flame, like Vike's quest line is totally gone now. Like we only have Vike in the Ever Jail or whatever it's called, right? In one of these circle jails. Then Vare is no longer giving us the Frenzied Flame quest. There's a very cool quest surrounding him, or cut content quest. If you haven't seen the Vati video, then what the hell are you doing here? Like, go watch that video. Holy shit. Where he's talking about the Frenzied Flame. There's a lot of cut content there with Vare, and that would flesh out his character so much, and it would add to the lore. Why did they cut that out? Then there's a few other concepts, like with the dream stuff, where you can put enemies to sleep and do something with dream stuff. Maybe that gets implemented, because like Mikola has a lot to do with dreaming, right? Maybe more Saint Trina stuff. But yeah, definitely expand upon existing quest lines, like give them a satisfying ending or bleak ending. Give them an ending, for God's sakes, right? Maybe add more content to existing quest lines so that it's still worth playing through the base game once again and still discovering new stuff. For example, there was supposed to be an NPC in Lanedale that you can talk to, where they want to find out, or where they eventually find out who the Veiled Monarch is, because their king, they don't know how their king looks like. They don't know who this Morgott is. They know him as the Veiled Monarch. They don't know if they're a god, if they're a human. Like, it turns out they're an omen, and they're very racist towards omens, right? And it's a big tragedy all of the sudden, or a big revelation that they've been ruled by an omen all the time, like the whole time. Like, there was a quest line about that. Why is it not in the game currently? But yeah, expanding upon existing quest lines, one thing, and please make the quest lines good. Because, or the way they work, make it good, because currently you constantly have to reload areas, you have to constantly talk. Like, it's a very old system. It's a very bad old system. Like, in the days of Demon Souls, that was fine, right? Or in Dark Souls 1 even. But the NPCs are not walking around, they're just standing still, they don't react to you at all. Maybe some do when you gesture in front of them, like the Firekeeper from Dark Souls 3 gestures to you, like when you do a gesture to her, like, or the doll in Bloodborne. But more interaction, like when I roll into them, they should get startled, right? When I'm talking to them from behind, they should turn around if they're not in a pose that doesn't allow them to turn around. For example, if they're leaning towards the wall, I don't expect them to like stand up and go around the corner or something. No, but like, more movement maybe when they talk to you. At least their mouths are moving now when they're talking to you. But like, put some more effort in your characters and the way they're moving. And also the whole thing with you have to reset the area in order for the NPC to move from point A to B. What is going on with that? Like, let's say in order to progress someone's quest line, you have to exhaust their dialogue, and then if you reload the area, they're moving to another location, right? A simple thing would be to show the player that they're teleporting away once you talked to them for the final time. Let's say they're saying to you, oh, we will meet again, I have to go now. When there is a site of grace near them, maybe they're sitting on the site of grace, they're doing something there, or eventually they're like teleporting somewhere else, right? I mean, in Dark Souls 3, they did this with the NPCs that you could recruit into your Firelink Shrine, right? They would just, with this teleport effect, they would use a homeward bone or something, right? Give us an animation like that, or let them walk to their next destination if it's walkable for them. Like, I'm not expecting them to use elevators and stuff, but let them walk to the destination. If they have to fight certain enemies, then only if you're close. Like, unload. There are a lot of things that you can do. Let them walk there. If they're getting attacked by enemies, they're actually fighting the enemies, or maybe they're not getting attacked by the enemies at all. It depends on what enemies these are, right? And when they're fighting the enemies, they can make it so that they're not taking damage, right? And they're not dealing damage to each other. Maybe you see them fight each other, but only the player can deal damage to the enemy, and only when the player's, like, maybe the NPC is almost invulnerable, right? Stuff like that. There's so much that you can do with that. You can do better than that, than the current system of reloading the area 20 times and stuff. I mean, it's one thing if a questline is complicated, but it shouldn't be complicated because it's clunky, right? It should be complicated because it's actually a complicated matter. If you have to search for some mysterious item that is very rare, right? Then you should struggle, sure. But you shouldn't struggle to find their next location or something. Like, I don't know. Especially in an open world game like this, it's very easy to miss Hayata, for example. It's kind of whack, right? But yeah, enough to the quest design. Let's talk about some new mechanics, because I would like to see more mechanics that where you can interact with the environment. A big thing would be climbing. In a lot of games like Tomb Raider or so, you can, I mean, not Tomb, let's not talk about Tomb Raider and Assassin's Creed, because there you can almost climb on everything, right? Especially in Assassin's Creed. But why not create certain spots like a very rough wall where you can climb upon, right? Or maybe like, for example, let's first talk about this wall that you can climb up and down to. Like, let it not act like a ladder. In a ladder you can only go up and down, but on this wall you can also go left and right. You can go in circles if you want. You can still use your kick move, you can still use your punch move up and down, right? Maybe we're getting a sideways attack move as well, or in 8 directions attacking move, whatever. However they want to implement that, it is possible to do that. But yeah, let us climb certain walls. I mean, in a lot of games they mark these walls, right? Maybe there's some, they look like they've been painted by chalk or something. Maybe it's a specific, a very, very rough wall where it looks like you can interact with it. Sometimes they paint them in a certain way in video games, right? Maybe you have this like a mesh, like this is it called a spade? No, not spade. What is it called? When you play card game, not hard. Not. I don't know what it's called. What the other red one? A diamond, right? The diamond-shaped mesh, where that is on a wall, so that certain plants can climb up the wall, right? Maybe you can use something like that to climb on the wall. Some indicators where it's climbable. We also, why not make it so that you can interact with certain things, like even in Demon Souls you could vault over certain spots, right? And Demon Souls it felt kind of random, but give us a button prompt, right, when we can vault over something. Or let's say there is a big hole in the ground or something, and you have a rope hanging from the middle going down, something like this. Maybe you can run towards that rope, jump, and then in the right moment you press your interact key, like your interact button, and you're grabbing the rope, and then you can decide to swing over to the other side, or maybe you want to use this rope to descend, right? I'm not talking about not open world, what is it called? I'm not talking about like sandbox-y movement, not physics-based, but small scripted things, right? When you interact with that rope, you can swing across it when you press the jump button, for example, or you can slide it down like a ladder, right? Small interactions with that. It doesn't need to be physics-based or something, but more interactable, like environment interactable mechanics. Or maybe you have to destroy this wall, or you have to throw a firebomb or deal fire damage to these barrels so that they explode, and with this explosion the tower that is in front of you collapses, and you finally have access to the tower. But while the tower collapses, it destroys another part of the cliff that it's standing on or something, and creates a new path to another area, something like this, right? More interaction with the areas. Maybe you have just broken, like, very old trees, right? Dead old trees that you can interact with always in in a lot of directions, and it's not necessarily creating a path, but you can drop it onto enemies and they are getting stunned and take heavy damage or something like this, right? From the falling tree. Wouldn't that be nice? Or maybe you can push down rocks, cliff, and they hit enemies on the head. Maybe you can create a trap like that for invaders, or the invader can create a trap like that for you. Isn't that amazing? You don't always need to have an enemy that is doing the trapping. Maybe the player's going to do the trapping. Maybe other players are doing the trapping, right? And now that I'm talking about trapping, why not introduce a trap-like item in the game? Or maybe a spell where you put a seal on the ground, or literally a bear trap or something similar, like a bomb or a mine, where you can lure enemies over. Or yourself, if you're not careful and it explodes. Isn't that nice? Oh, that would be nice. That would be a nice spell, like the seals, or the seal spells in like Skyrim or something. That's, yeah, that would be nice. Now that I'm talking about that, let's go over to the crafting system extensions that I was thinking about, or small overhaul. I'm pretty glad that crafting right now is not mandatory, that you don't need to craft in this game at all. But I would like to see, first of all, a small quality of life improvement where we currently have we can craft consumables right now, right? Or we can only craft consumables. Why not let the player in the crafting menu, let's say you want to create 10 fire bombs, right? And you're creating 10 fire bombs, and there is a new button prompt that you can press where the game is automatically crafting, let's say, 10 fire bombs when you're, or crafting up to 10 fire bombs when you're getting lower than that. Let's say you're fighting a boss or an enemy, and when you're in combat you can't craft, that's fine. But let's say the fight is over, you've thrown away all your fire bombs, and now the game, because you've said it so, the game is crafting you 10 new ones, because you were telling the game, I always want to have 10 fire bombs. Of course, when you run out of crafting materials, so be it, the game is not crafting for you anymore. Maybe you can also tell the game that you want to have, like, that it's not using more than, like, you're saying you always want to have 10 of crafting material A and B, right? And if you're having that number, they can't craft with it anymore, but if you have more than that number, they can still craft with it. Like these quality of life changes where you can also apply this to ammunition, right? To arrows. You always want to have, you always want to be topped off on poison arrows or something, for example, right? And the game is automatically crafting poison arrows if you're going below the threshold that you told the game you want to have it. Like, you always want to have 80 poison arrows crafted once you get the material instantly. And then on top of that, please, now we're talking about crafting materials, right? Please make it so that there are no longer fucking ethereal leaves glowing purple on the ground. You have the ethereal leaf model. You have the butterflies flying around model, right? You have the gravelstone model that lies on the ground. Why would you hide these items as well in a purple glow? Like in a purple item glow, right? You're expecting some kind of cool new weapon or cool new interaction item, like, right? Some cool new stuff, and then you're picking it up and you're just getting an arterial leaf. Like, what the hell? You get rid of the, like, stop doing that. Put them, if there is an arterial leaf there, put the literal arterial leaf on the ground. You have the model from, like, you have the flower on the, like, you already have the flower. Why hide it in a purple glowing item? Or at least make it white or boring, like the not rare color, right? And then why not let us craft certain armor sets and weapons and stuff like that, like legendary stuff. Let's say, in order to obtain this one sword, you first have to talk to an NPC who tells you about the sword. Now the recipe is being unlocked, and you're looking in your crafting menu, and it tells you you need the blade, the hilt, and the crossguard, because the sword has been broken down and the pieces lie somewhere in the world, like somewhere hidden in the world, right? And you have to collect these pieces, and then it tells you you have to be near a special fire, right? And then you go to the special fire, and now you can craft this very cool new exciting weapon or armor set or item, right? Why not make a treasure hunt out of this? Wouldn't that be amazing, to craft legendary gear? Like, you can obviously only find the items once per playthrough, but instead of just giving me the weapon outright or the armor set instantaneously, let me craft it, let me work for it. Now that we're talking about armor sets, let me customize my character a bit, just a tiny bit more. Like, we can currently with Bok, right, we can remove the cape and sometimes like the helmet or something, right, where we can alter certain parts of an armor, and that's fine and all, but you can improve on that mechanic, right? Maybe if the armor has a cape, we can not only what's it called, to turn the cape on and off, right, but let us change the color. Maybe you have predefined colors, or you actually let the player use a color wheel or something. That would be crazy, but right, give us some kind of color change, like maybe curated color change. Maybe give us the option to remove certain parts. Let's say you have like an armor set with knee pads and heavy gauntlets or something, right? Like gauntlet on gauntlets. Let me remove certain things. Like maybe I don't want to wear. Maybe I want to wear the gambeson underneath the plate, right? I want to remove the plate, but I want to still want to have the looks of the gambeson underneath, or of the clothing underneath, so we can remove the plate. We are losing maybe a few like physical resistance, maybe we're gaining a bit more magical resistance, maybe it's just optical changes, right? But I mean, when we remove the cape, we're getting less defense, but we're getting more, like, it's getting lighter. So give us more customization options for existing and new armor sets. That would be amazing. Then Bok would actually be a useful character in the game. And let him survive, for fuck's sake. And then the final thing that I've written down on this wish list is a better stealth system. And maybe tailor the areas in the DLC at least more towards stealth, or so that stealth is actually an option. Because you only in the game right now, you only have it in a few spots where there are these bushes that you can hide in, right? It's a not very well implemented mechanic right now. What is crouching even doing in this game? It's probably just reducing your noise and reducing the detection radius of the enemies, right? Or your detection radius, whatever. However they're doing the detection mechanic in this game, it's like reducing the range, right, where you're being seen. But we also have items like hidden body, hidden weapon, and the mimic veil that are currently very, very bad for PvE. How I always imagined the mimic veil to perform is like, you have an enemy patrolling up and down in front of you, right? And when you're using mimic veil, most of the time they shouldn't be able to see you. How I would imagine this to work is like when you're standing still while being transformed, the enemy won't detect you. Only bosses and maybe certain detection enemies or something can still make you out, but the random as Joe enemy or John Elden Ring enemy, whatever, can't see you when you're standing still while being transformed. Once you start moving in their vision cone, they will notice you. Or when they bump into you, they will notice you. But in any other case, no, they won't. Of course, if you attack them, then the veil is getting lifted, but right? So you can make it so that when the enemy is facing away from you, you can slowly move towards them, right? When they turn around, you stand still on the side, they're moving past you, and then you can move in your direction again. They're turning around again, you're standing still. And so on. That would be nice. Maybe also add a few moves where, like in Sekiro, you can, for example, execute weak enemies from above when you're jumping on them, right? Give us more jump attack options. You can make it like in Sekiro when it's a very weak enemy that you can lock on to the enemy you want to execute, and then you can actually do it from above while jumping down. It's like a more fancy backstab. I mean, you're one-shotting them anyways, right? Because it's a very weak enemy, right? Why not? And with tougher enemies, maybe you can chunk them down, like you can deal a big chunk of damage. Of course, they would have to create more animations for that and account for that, but it's still nice to see that in game. Hidden body, I don't even know if it has another function. It probably just reduces the cone as well. Maybe you're actually becoming almost invisible, or for PvE enemies completely invisible when you're standing still, similar to Mimic Veil. When you're not moving in their vision cone, they don't see you. And so on, right? When they're not bumping into you and you're standing still, they won't see you. And now to hidden weapon. I don't know if hidden weapon has an effect in PvE right now. If it has, I never noticed it. Honestly, I never tried it, but that's the problem. I mean, if you're using hidden weapon, you most likely have a mage character, and with a mage character, your weapon is already enchanted with magic, and then you can't buff it, so you can't apply hidden weapon, which is unfortunate, but whatever. But let's say you have a weapon where hidden weapon is applied to, right? It's invisible. Your weapon is invisible. What should happen with PvE enemies? Let's say sometimes enemies will react to your swings, right? They will start to dodge. And with hidden weapon, that shouldn't be any different. They see that you're moving your hands in an attacking motion. They should still dodge. But you can still hit them. They're not having iframes. PvE enemies have no longer iframes when you're attacking them with hidden weapon. So if your weapon is long enough and they're not dodging out of the way, they're still getting hit by hidden weapon, because while they know that you're attacking, they don't really know how long and where your weapon is, right? So no iframes for them. And if they are blocking, let's say the enemy is blocking, hidden weapon, in my opinion, should deal more damage to their block. If they're not having a 100% block because they have a fucking boulder as a shield or something, let's say they're just blocking with their weapon or with their very, very small shield, they don't know how big your weapon is or how your weapon looks like, right? So it should deal more damage to their block, in my opinion. So because they imagine it's a fucking big sword, right? They're not prepared for that. or let's say they're preparing for a very, very heavy attack, right? Because it looks like you're having a greatsword or something, right? Then they're putting their full body weight into the block, or they're trying to deflect it, and then they're getting hit by a very small dagger move, right? This is why they should take more damage when they are blocking your hidden weapons attack. Not more than a regular attack while they're not blocking, but more. They take more chip damage from while blocking. That would be nice. And I think we are through. Let's recap very quickly. New magic system, or maybe quality of life changes, where you can allocate magic to more slots, because currently if you're having like 12 spells with you, it's very unintuitive. Like, you're not using your heavy attack to hit the enemy with your staff or something. That's ridiculous. Then we have maybe extending magic schools, right? More spells for existing magic schools, and in general more magic schools, and of course incantations. I'm talking spells. It's like both magic types, right? Then some way of FP regeneration, maybe passive FP regeneration, maybe a Ash of War, that where you can meditate or something. Enemies being more susceptible to status moves, better quests, better looking NPCs, like when you talk to them, more movement and stuff. Then new mechanics, like new environmental mechanics, like climbing on certain spots, like you're climbing a ladder, just a more fancy ladder, because it's a wall, it's the face of a cliff or something, right? Or you can swing across certain ropes and stuff like that. Maybe even just grabbing a ladder while jumping or something, like more dynamic interactions with the environment. What else? Yeah, to create shortcuts and stuff. Then a better crafting system, like a quality of life feature where it's automatically crafting certain things. Maybe not, it doesn't really matter, but maybe crafting legendary items would be amazing, and a better stealth system. These are the things that I've written down. Of course, they've already basically shown two new things, or they've shown one new things where we're getting more different weapon types, like a martial arts weapon, like where you're punching and kicking and stuff. That's amazing, like in Dark Souls 2 with the bone claw or whatever it's called. I'm glad that this is coming back, and like throwing knives where it's like you have infinite knives but you're throwing them. That's amazing. Because we've already seen that it's not on a list, or this shield spear thing that our character had fighting against Mesmer in the trailer. That looked also kind of interesting. Yeah, so because we're getting new weapon categories and of course new weapons, that's not on my list. Also fairly sure that we're getting more Ashes of War, that's why it's not on the list either. And then I think they've also, on an interview or somewhere, I don't know where this information is coming from directly, but they've some kind of mechanic where you can adjust your difficulty somehow with in-game items, similar to, or different difficulty scaling system similar to Sekiro. It's definitely nice for all the New Game Plus characters that don't necessarily want to fight the deal or want to go through the DLC with their while these DLCs crank to New Game Plus 10 or something. But yeah, this is my wish list. I'm glad that it feels good to make finally another video for YouTube on Elden Ring, that is. And let me know what your wish list for the upcoming DLC is, or if you even have a wish list, or if you're happy how it is right now, just more content. Let me know if you like my wish list, or if certain things wouldn't be an improvement but make the game worse for you. Maybe that's the case. Maybe you like the clunky quests. or maybe they're so iconic the way the quests work, maybe you don't want it to change, maybe you don't like status moves, right? So stuff like this, maybe you don't like the FP regeneration. Write it down into the comments. Every comment is welcome, even a comment where you just say hi, right? Just type hi, that's fine too. Maybe you're just typing some random letter, like a Q or an H or something, whatever, just a random letter, that's fine too. Every comment is welcome. Criticism would be nice too. But yeah, write down a comment. Let me know if you're hyped for the DLC as well. And there's more to come before the DLC comes out, just don't know when. But yeah, that's it from me, and I see you in the next video. Goodbye.